what is to show the conversation between parents and adolescents in urban slum. So urban slum is also germane to this study because they have different culture entirely, coupled with the fact that they are economically marginalized, so which could trigger a lot of things, and the fact that such environment is overcrowded to the point that even to have conversation about sexual issues, neighbors around could actually drop what parents are actually discussing, what the adolescents are discussing with their parents. And the fact that the environment itself, the slum environment itself, promotes negative sexual and reproductive health. So to occupy this gap, we explore the situational context of parent-child communication and sexual and reproductive health issues in slums of Ibadan. So as a theory of explanation, this study employed social constructivism theory to explain the context in which parent-child communication is taking place. And we are leveraging on Bajal and Lukman's 1991 theory of social constructivism, which take its root from the social phenomenology of Afreshut. The Afreshut argument of basic assumption in people that the theory centers on ordinary and everyday interaction, feelings of reality and intersubjectivity. Now, for Baja and Lukman look at actors in context, that is, how individuals, through communication, construct their reality. Now, what this theory actually explains is the fact that parents have different reality, adolescents also have different reality, and both of them reside within the same family and within the same larger society, which also have impact on whatever they do within the home front and whatever transpire between parent and adolescent. So this led to the conceptual schema, and the conceptual schema basically explains parent and adolescent, where the conversation could either come from any of them, could come from the parent, could also come from the adolescent, depending on the situation that warrants such conversation. So the situational context that we look at in this study that emerges are the sexual and reproductive health meanings and experiences, the intergenerational cultural norms and expectation of sexual and reproductive health, the gender double standards in sexual and reproductive health, streetwise SRH knowledge, then exposure to sexual and reproductive health on social media. And this could produce 3 outcomes, even though this outcome is not the outcome is not explored in this study, because this is the 4th paper out of my PhD work. So the larger study actually look at this outcome. That is, the outcome could come in a way that either there is no communication at all, or the communication is indirect, or there is direct communication. So, but this paper did not. In this paper we are not looking at that the outcome. The outcome in this paper is the situational context in itself. So the study setting, by way of local governments were used in Ibadan. The 2 local governments, they are documented in the literature that they have highest concentration of slums, traditional slums in Ibadan. And these 2 local governments include Ibadan Northeast, Ibadan Southeast. And under Ibadan Northeast, we selected through the help of, through the assistance of 2 MPC staff, National Population Communication staff. We selected Aremo in Ibadan North and Bere in Ibadan Southeast. So like I said, this study is a purely qualitative, we adopted a qualitative approach to it. And in total, we have 8 focus group discussion, 4 conducted among adolescents and 4 among parents of both sexes. And in total, we have 72 participants in the focus group discussion. And we also conducted key informant interview with community leader and women opinion leader. So one community leader, one women opinion leader was selected in each community. So for data collection instrument, we adopted VNet-based FGD for focus group discussion, while we adopted key informant guide for key informant. For the VNet base, a little explanation about that is we had a pre-feed visit prior to the larger study, and we realized that for the larger study, we adopted sequential exploratory research design for the larger study. And after the completion of the quantitative data, we then realized that parents and adolescents were given socially desirable response. So we visited the community again, and we sourced through a short instrument. We sourced information about happenings in their environment, and we then used those information to formulate a story that will reflect the reality of that environment that participants can speak to. So, and that constitutes the VNet-based approach that we adopted. So for the data analysis, we use content analysis with the aid of Atlas TI for the analysis. So findings, what are the findings that we got from this study? Five basic teams emerged from this study and one sub-team. The first team is, like I said in the conceptual framework, the first team is sexual and reproductive health meaning and experiences. Now, for these findings, both parents and adolescents, they share similar meaning on sexual and reproductive health issues and consequences of sexual and reproductive health issues. They share similar meaning. But despite that similar meaning, they still could not have effective communication in such a way that they couldn't find themselves on the same page as to, irrespective of the meaning, the shared meaning that they have, they could not have robust conversation on sexual and reproductive health. And in terms of experience, parents share their anecdotal experience, and as well, adolescents also share their own experience. And what we discovered is that their experiences are also similar, but the fact is, such experience also, sometimes the experience, for instance, in the study, a parent that had done abortion for adolescents could face two different options. One of the options could be, talking to adolescent about the consequences of that, even after she had done the abortion with the adolescent, talking about the consequences, but she will feel they are unable to do that because of the morals within it, and the fact that some of them feel that could also trigger or promote the further engagement in negative or bad sexual behavior. Another thing that also emerges the intergenerational norms and expectations. Now, for parents, they have certain expectations, and the expectation actually tilted towards maintenance of status quo, like maintaining the traditional culture around sexuality that promotes abstinence. But here, another striking thing here is the fact that most parents find it difficult to accept the fact that some of the adolescents or many of the adolescents are sexually active. They found it difficult to relate with that reality. So in most cases, most parents tend to give wrong information at probably right time. Wrong information in the sense that adolescents that are sexually active would probably need information such as condom use, contraceptive use. But when parents tend to preach abstinence when adolescents are sexually active, then there tend to be a kind of mismatch of information. as to what parents are given and what adolescents are receiving. Then another finding is about the gender double standard. For these findings, we realize that the same parent that is preaching abstinence for adolescents, preaching abstinence for adolescent female, is the same parent that is glorifying masculinity in terms of, oh, one of the excerpts that came striking is the fact that, oh, you don't look like me, like you're not like me. Like when I was at your age, bragging about their sexual prowess. So this is a kind of gender, like a kind of giving gender imbalance information, in the sense that if we are to promote a responsible sexual and reproductive health of adolescents, then we must be seen to engage both adolescent male and adolescent female. Then the next finding is streetwise SRH knowledge. This theme came recurring in their conversation, in the sense that most of the adolescents alluded to the fact that there are a lot of things that they know that their parents are not aware of. And their parents, because they are judgmental, they find it difficult to relate with that reality. So they get most of their information on the streets. And majority of them like, oh, we have, because there are a lot of people on the street that educate these people, like those who constitute themselves as area brothers, area sisters, big uncle on the street. And these people tend to give, for some of the things that they could not find solution to, some of the problems they probably find themselves and they could not find solution to, they get solution to it on the street and without even the knowledge of their parents. And another thing that came out of this is the fact that the same streets is also known for violating most adolescent female, harassing them, subjecting them to sexual violence. So which could be negative for adolescent female. So that also interfere in parent-adolescent communication, making it ineffective. Then the last thing that came out that emerged is exposure to sexual and reproductive health on media. Now, this has two basic two strands. Some believe that media has positive effect on adolescents, using it for sourcing information about their schools and all of that. But majority alluded to the fact that media has negative impact on adolescents, because majority of them have access to pornography on pornographic content on social media. They have access to some other things. And something striking that came out, which is a sub-theme that came out of exposure to media, is the fact that, and it's so surprising, that a lot of adolescents are into different sexual activities that are unknown to their parents. And one of the conversations that came out one of the points that came out from the adolescent female is the fact that some of them, not a large, some of them are actually into the use of sex toys. And across adolescent female group and adolescent male group, we found out that a lot of them are exposed to sexting. They're exposed to exchanging nudes on social media. They're exposed to talking about sexual issues and sexual conversation with their peers on social media. And this, we felt most parents do not factor this into their conversation, and the rate at which this affects the ineffectiveness of the conversation is on the high side. So what this study had is the fact that the study opened up a new vista in multidisciplinary approach to sexual education, as to it uncovers some issues that are left unresearched in the literature. Also, it also promotes the need for parents to factor in some of these contexts into their conversation, so that to have robust conversation with adolescents and have positive feedback from the adolescent. So to conclude, inference that could be drawn from the parent-adolescent experiences indicate that parents must factor in context, that they must give context appropriate information to their adolescent without even downplaying the fact that their adolescent sexually active. They should be able to give appropriate information and give holistic information in such a way that, oh, they could assume that the adolescent are sexually active, even when such adolescent is not sexually active. Although that would also promote experimentation. However, parents should give holistic information about sexual activity, content-based information to adolescents. So I would like to acknowledge OAU. I would like to acknowledge Qatar. I also like to acknowledge IIAS, and I would like to acknowledge my university. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. This has been informative, and it's a really, really exciting topic and research. So to respond to this lecture, we have just the perfect person. She's a senior professor and a senior scholar. So I'd like to introduce Professor Margaret Lombe. Professor Margaret Lombe is the director of the Bridge program in the School of Social Work at Boston University, USA. She specializes in international social development with an emphasis on social inclusion and exclusion, as well as capacity building. Her repertoire includes research on poverty, methods for food security, livelihood, and nutrition assessment, along with evaluation of social programs and services. Professor Lumbi has provided technical assistance and conducted evaluations for both governmental and non-governmental organizations in local and international settings. She serves as an advisor to the United Nations on the UNDESA and UN Habitat programs, and has led and participated in a number of expert group meetings on inclusion and exclusion globally. So it is my honor to invite Professor Margaret Lombe from Boston University to respond to this lecture. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Lemiji, you are always very kind to me. I appreciate that kind introduction. Dr. Kola Aliyu, I want to express my gratitude at the opportunity to reflect on your work with you and the team around us. I also would like to thank you for sharing your knowledge and for sharing your work. I look at this opportunity really as a privilege. And again, I'm really grateful. The topic that you presented and shared with us is timely and relevant, especially as it relates to young people and focusing specifically on the young men and women in informal settlements. And I'd like to kind of, my remarks are going to be very limited, so we have time to talk and chat among ourselves. But I'd like to begin my remarks by applauding you for centering the context. You know, I've done some work in informal settlements, and informal settlements have unique characteristics. And I'll acknowledge here that I'm not familiar with the informal settlement that you reference, or rather the context of your study, but I am familiar with some characteristics that informal settlement.
Mr. Lumbe, you're muted, ma'am. You are muted, ma'am.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Where am I? I'm not muted. Could you not hear anything?
We heard you to a point, but then the line went up at some time. But then you can continue.
Can you come again?
We heard you when you said that, we heard you last when you said you were familiar with the general characteristics of informal settings. That was the point at which the audio went off. So you could
Okay,
just
I'm
continue
actually
from there.
muted. I'm not muted, so I will
Okay.
start from there. I am, yes, sorry, like for, technology is always technology. So, like I was saying, I'm not familiar with this specific context, but I am familiar with informal settlements. And from my work, I do understand that informal settlements share similar characteristics. And some of these include extensive illicit activities in which young people engage, and at times even parents engage in the same illicit activities. Informal settlements also are characterized by relaxed caregiver or parental monitoring. As we know, most parents in informal settlements have to work extensive hours to put bread on the table. And informal settlements also have limited opportunities for meaningful engagement. And here I'm focusing specifically on leisure. They lack activities for leisure. So if you ask a young person, what are you doing for leisure? Mostly you'll be surprised, because it's not because the intention is to engage in illicit activities, but there are limited opportunities for leisure. Having said this, I also want to acknowledge that these informal settlements are also locus of strength, which is exemplified in the community engagement that informal settlements have. Turning specifically to the study, my first remark on the study, I'm going to be very general and then go to aspects of the study. And broadly, I would say this is a strong study. And I had the privilege to read the paper, so you may be, have more information than you probably have. And so I'll say the study is well structured, it's well written, and the results are powerful and are well discussed. The implications are also important and strong. They lead to somewhere. And I always joke when I say, scholars have an obligation to keep ourselves employed. So, like I do a study and then I say future studies should do ABC. And yes, the future studies that I'm referencing are going to be done by me. So I'm giving myself work as I look ahead from my study to the future. So coming back to some of the observations that I feel I want to highlight, my first one relates to the theory, social constructivism. And this is a powerful theory, and it's well connected to the study. But then my reflections are as follows. I would like to encourage you, Dr. I will refer to you by first name, Kola, if that's okay, to engage with the theory extensively and really begin to see how the theory informs your study. Does this theory adequately reflect the key elements of your study? Does it fit well with your study? And you have this opportunity because, in a sense, your study is exploratory. So you can stretch this theory where it doesn't fit. What are those areas where the theory doesn't fit? How would you make this theory applicable in settings like the informal settlement that you worked in? And so what I'm asking you to do is look at the theory again and use the authority that you have as a scholar to break this theory apart and say, yes, these parts work for this context and they work for this study, but there are parts in this theory that don't work. And therefore, I propose A, B, C, D, because you have that responsibility and you have the authority to do that. Another reflection relates to data collection. And I just want to applaud you for the techniques that you used in your data collection. They were appropriate for the nature of the study. And I commend you for that. Looking at the context, one of the things that I would have loved to see, yes, you did a brief overview of the context. I would have loved to see the population, who lives in that setting. What do they do? And this information might be available, like if you look at census data. And I want to draw our attention to the results. And like I noted earlier, the results are well presented and well discussed. And one of my concerns as I think about the results relates to the fact that in my reading, the study set out to explore the influence of situational context on parental adolescent communication about sexual and reproductive health. And yet when I listen to the results, when I read the results, I feel there is silence about context. And this, for me, begs the question, was there a specific question on context? And this kind of leads me back to the study itself. And again, I'm referring it to the document, the manuscript that I read, where I looked and I didn't see the question section. And I'd like to encourage you, Dr. Kola, to include a subsection on your research question so the reader can go back and reflect on the question that you're asking and begin to link what you are learning to the questions. And my final observation, which is I thought like was interesting, and you addressed adequately, was the gender bias that you mentioned. This was very interesting for me, as a scholar, as a woman, because even here in the US, when we do studies in public housing, we learn of parental control or parental monitoring supervision being very different. And what we hear from the parents is that, well, if my son has a baby, the baby mama is not going to live here, so I won't be responsible for the baby. But if my daughter has a baby, I will be responsible for feeding that baby. So there is more attention on female, like monitoring of female offsprings versus male offspring. And then like an interesting point for me is that when you reflect on this, which I felt like was interesting and also well done, is the fact that in the key informant group, you have 4 females. And I wondered why. And I'm sure you're going to help us understand that. And then, yes, in your literature review, you mentioned the discomfort and the lack of skills that parents might have in communicating sexual content with their children. And I wonder, did this come out in your interviews? And lastly, I would like to know a little bit about the composition of the focus groups. Were the focus groups mixed, or was it adolescent, male, female, and then the parents or the caregivers in their own focus groups? Or did you talk to them like in mixed focus groups? And I'd like to stop here in the interest of time. And again, I want to commend you for this important piece of work. And I want to thank everyone who's in this forum with us this afternoon for you and morning for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. For this very comprehensive and really informative reaction to the paper. I'm sure Dr. Ali would have a few, reactions as well. But you have not just responded. We've also kind of done a mini lecture for many of us who have not read the full paper. So thank you very much. So between the two of you now, we have an idea of the full paper itself. So, however, to continue, I'd like to ask if there are anyone among the attendees who would like to react in one way or the other to who maybe would have a question or a comment for the presenter, you know, so please do so. This is the time you can indicate by using the raise hand button. You can use the chat box, either of the two. But then would like you to probably use the raise hand icon so that I can identify and invite you. But then while we are waiting for reactions, I noticed that Professor Morenike Upong joined the session earlier. We are happy she's one of our professors at the Institute. She leads the IIAS science arm of the Institute, and we are happy to welcome you, Ma. Thank you very much for coming. I'm sure at some point you would have a reaction for the presenter. So okay, I have a hand up now. That's from Dr. Akpa. So you can unmute and ask your question, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Dimeji, and good afternoon to the discussant, and of course the presenter, Dr. Aliu. I listened to you and I enjoyed your presentation, well researched, and I believe you must have put in a lot in this research. I listened, but then I also want to believe that there are some aspects that I think, well, since I'm not privileged to have the full paper, perhaps you may have discussed that, but then I just want to know and be sure, because I want you to look at the direction with regards to the social media influence in your study, because the reality of it is that before now, what seems to be known as adult talk, sex talk, to put it in a more plain tongue, it seems to be deconstructed with the staggering influence of social media, as exemplified with the layers of the so-called relationship experts or sex educators on the social media, as they relate to the situational context of sexual reproduction and health as reflected in your work. So in just a straight language, are there considerations for that in this study?
Thank you very much, Dr. Akpa, for your question. Is there anyone? Okay, well, while we wait for more people, while we wait for more reactions, I'd like to invite Dr. Aliu to please respond to the comments from Professor Lumbe and then also from Dr. Akpa.
All right, yeah, thank you very much. Prof, thank you so much for that insightful comments. I'm very grateful for that. And thank you for the to the person who also asked the question. To respond to Prof, for KII group, I have 2 community head who are male and 2 female women opinion leaders. So that is for the key informant group. For the lack of knowledge is in the sense that it came out from the conversation of parents that what they what they consider as the need, what they see as the need of adolescents in terms of sexual and reproductive health information is quite different from what their adolescent is actually is expecting from them. So they lack the knowledge, they lack the contemporary knowledge with what the adolescents are expecting, even though they are on the driver's seat to guide them. But what to guide them on? There's the kind of information the adolescents are expecting is different from what the parents wanted or would be given. So they alluded to that fact that they lack the knowledge that the adolescent is expecting them to give. And most studies have actually alluded to this, that they found that parental
I can hardly hear you. Maybe I'm the only one who can't hear.
You are not the only one. Your voice tailed off at some point.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. So they do not lack the knowledge to guide adolescents, but they lack of what, because
sorry, sir. Dr. Liu, we can hardly hear you.
Oh God. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes, manageable.
Okay, maybe it's my network. Can you hear me now?
All right, sir. Okay, maybe the gods of the internet too, they can be angry with Sweden, not only Africa. All right, so let's just
it came out from the conversation. They lack the knowledge the adolescent is Can everyone hear me?
Yes, so slightly.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, slightly. We can hear you slightly, sir.
I'll just struggle with it. So for the focus group composition, it is not we have for adolescent group, adolescent male, and same thing for parents, women, and for mothers. We did their focus group different. They focus. This study we never had in this study. And for the consideration on social media is one of the exposure to sexual information on social media is one of the things that he marked. But delving deeply into it, we didn't go deep into social media, rather than looking at how social media information they source on social media, how it interferes with the conversation between parents and adolescents, how it creates a kind of conflicting information. That's what we do. Thank you. Hello?
Okay, hello, Dr. Solly, we can hear you. We're hearing you, sir.
Yeah,
can you hear us? Oh,
yeah.
All right, okay, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I would like to ask if Professor Lumbe would like to maybe, would you like to make further comments on his response, or
Yes, I'll quickly react to the response. Thank you for that response. You've clarified a number of points, but I would encourage you to go back to the manuscript and just include, like where we talk about the sample, include the breakdown of the sample, like, say this is the sample. And as you mentioned in your presentation, you are drawing from a larger study, which had an N of 72, if I'm not mistaken. So like that doesn't hurt you at all. It makes it actually clearer to say, this study draws upon a larger study with an N of 72. And for this study, you focus narrowly on this group and you justify why the narrow focus. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you, Dr. Lee. So I'd like to invite Professor Upong for a quick reaction to the presentation. Professor Upong, Ma. Professor Veronica Upong, you are muted, Ma. And so while we wait for her to respond, maybe she's having internet challenges. I'd like to ask if there are other people who would like to make more comments and then further reactions to the presentation. I think one of the things that we have learned and discovered today is the fact that writing is a continuous thing. There's no point you get to and say, yeah, I'm done. Let me just close it, because these comments have really been helpful. And of course, many of us are also learning one or two tricks, to getting all the necessary information into your work. Dr. Aliu's presentation is very, very an exciting one. It's interesting. And of course, it's relatable because many of us live in these informal settings or interact with them. And then the challenges between adolescents and parents, their communication, having effective communication is one that is also an important one for our society. That's why Professor Lumbe said this is a very timely research. And so in the absence of any further comment, okay, I can see a hand is up. Dr. Diaolu, you can unmute and give your reaction, sir. That's
okay,
all.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I really want to thank the presenter for a very good, a well done job. My concern is that the issues discussed are germane issues. Apart from the research aspect of it, they are realities. And we see our adolescents, falling victim of all this sexual harassment and all that. So I wouldn't know how more people will be aware of the outcome of this study. Apart from journal publications, we have some other magazines or dailies, so that parents will be more conscious and aware, of what is going on in the mind of these adolescents, and take some practical steps to address it. The issues discussed are very, very practical, and they are happening in our time, especially the social media aspect of it. So that's just my concern. How more parents
Thank you very much, Dr. Dialu, for that very important question. I think the question speaks to the place of dissemination of these research findings and, especially to people in the informal setting themselves. And of course, I think this is also a topic that has been ongoing for a while in the world of research and scholarship, especially when it comes to empirical research about how do or when should the researcher go back, to the places where they obtain their data from, and then to disseminate findings from the research. So, Dr. Ali, do you want to say something about your dissemination plans that is beyond the journal publication part of it? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you so much for that. Yeah, there's a component of community engagement and dissemination, which, well, is part of my postdoctoral deliverable. So, which will be done in Ibadan. Follow up. We'll go back to intimate. Can you hear me?
Yes, correct, sir.
We'll go back to the community to intimate them of the findings of it. And beyond that, another another deliverable is to write a policy and probably engage stakeholders, do a kind of community, like a kind of town hall with the community members, whereby we keep them on how to engage their adolescents, or adolescents can probably engage. We are not actually looking, we've not done that now. That is coming up. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aliu. Thank you. Okay, so Professor Lumbi, you'd like to say something?
Yes, please. Yeah,
Please
thank
go
you
ahead.
so much. Thank you, Dr. Aliu, and the person who asked the question. Actually, I was thinking about that as you answered. One of the things that my colleagues and I have started doing in terms of community engaged research is to conduct something that we call data walk. So we advertise in the community and we go to a public place and say we want to share our learnings. It's a way of saying to the community, thank you. You are partners in knowledge creation, knowledge generation, but you are also partners in consuming the knowledge that you help us produce. So we do a data walk. We kind of do posters, and like we simplify the posters, we ask questions and we answer questions from the community. And we come up with a plan. Like, so how are you going, like, do you find these results useful? Are they applicable to you? How do you plan to use them? So we try to make it, to make the utilization of research finding really user-friendly.
All right. Thank you very much, Ma. Are you done, or would you like to make further comments?
No, I'm done. I'm done. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, okay, Ma. Thank you very much, Ma. So Dr. Ali, would you like any? I wouldn't want to call it last words, but then would you like to make further concluding statements?
Well,
Dr. Ali, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can't thank Prof enough. I just want to appreciate Prof. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. Work on all the comments and ensure that the paper come out fine. Thank you so much. I'm grateful.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. We are grateful to you for sharing your work with us. And then it's beyond just listening to you. We've also been able to learn, from that part of side of research, and many things that happen to us that we may not have known they are researchable, or that we have not been able to put into research context. You have been able to help us,
Thank you.
So you've been able to. Hello, sorry, can you hear me? My internet went up. Hello.
Hello.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So we really appreciate you. So as we round off today's program, I'd like to invite Dr. Tayowe for a brief comment before I invite Dr. Bank to do the closing.
Hello, Dimeji.
You need to unmute, sir. You need to unmute, sir. You are muted.
Okay. I would like to thank Professor Lombe. I'm sorry I had to put my video off because I'm on the move. I will have Chief Professor Lombe for today coming to give some insightful comments on my colleague. Dr. Ali is a colleague, is a friend, and I so much enjoyed his presentation today. I'd like to thank him for presenting his work and making it public. It's a test of one's scholarship, while others are afraid of bringing their work out. I really commend him coming out to accept his work. I also like to appreciate Professor Okon for coming. I'd like to appreciate Professor Oladimo for listening for Professor Olufona today. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. It's been a wonderful time. We expect everyone coming next month. There'll be another insightful and moment where we're going to discuss some intellectual work also. Thank you so much, and wishing everyone great day. If you're in the evening, great evening. If you're in the morning, great morning. And if you are about to go to bed, great night. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Oye. So there you have it. Thank you very much, everyone. Dr. Otabang, are you able to make quick remarks? Dr. Otabang?
Yeah.
You need to unmute.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm just going to say thank you to everyone that participated, from Professor Lademore, representing Professor Solupono, our coordinator, our respondent, Professor Lumbe. Thank you very much. Lecture. It's indeed an horizon that we are still exploring. Thank you to everyone, the participants, and everyone that's made it to this seminar. We look forward to another insightful one by next month. Thank you.
All
Did
right.
you hear me?
Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone. And then a quick information to go back to it, I'd like to share the video. People, especially mental, you can easily get the link. It's on IIAS YouTube. So thank you. And that you can always put that. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming. First, It's always a delight to listen to you. It's always insightful. We learn very, very new things from practicals that we need to learn from. So I'm hoping and looking forward to learning more from you the years go by. And we look forward to hearing from you during the process. Thank you so much, Mark, for coming and for taking time out to participate in this webinar. Thank you very much. And then to everyone, thank you. Thank you. See you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.